Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So for this tutorial we'll be working with this 4-ply yarn. It's seagull, and I'll be doubling my strand. And the reason why I like using this yarn basically it's because it stretches and it has that elasticity to it, so it makes your work a little bit easier. I'll have a measuring tape, a 3.5mm hook, a pair of scissors and some stitch markers. So for this project, we'll start by making a slip knot. I think I'll link in the description different YouTube tutorials on how to make a slip knot, but basically this is how I make mine. I'm just going to grab my yarn. So basically I'm going to make some sort of like a circle and pass my hook through that circle and then yarn over and pull through, just like that. And that's how I make my slip knot. So for this tutorial we'll start by making a chain, and this chain, so this chain you're going to yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through, and the chain is going to be the length of your hip area, and make sure that it is not too tight. As you're yarning over, make sure that it's not too tight, because when you make it too tight it doesn't stretch as much, but if it's loose it's going to stretch a little bit, and we want it to be stretched when we put it on the measuring tape. So once you stretch it and it reaches the hip area, you will join it together. I hope that is making a lot of sense. So you will yarn over, make sure that the chain is not too tight and it's a bit loose. Once you're done, you will have to keep referring to the measuring tape. So once you've reached your required length, for this tutorial I made a chain of about 120. So once I'm done with my chain, I'm going to refer it to the measuring tape and just measure how far I've gone, if I need to add more rows or if I need to decrease, and make sure that you stretch it on the measuring tape. My hip area is around 32 inches, so even if I stretch it and it's about 31, it's also okay. Even about 30, it's actually also okay, because it stretches. The pattern that we're making and the stitches, the mesh pattern that we are making stretches. So once you transfer it to the measuring tape and you stretch it and it's about almost exactly how long you want it, you're going to attach it and make some sort of like a circle. So there are basically two sides to this chain. We have sort of like a smooth plane and a rough kind of like plane. So you make sure that the smooth part is facing in front, so you all in the same direction. The smooth, and that is how we're going to attach it. Don't, and it should not be mixed up. Follow it facing with both sides or anything like that. You don't follow the smooth plane. Make sure it's all facing in the same direction, and we'll attach one end of the chain to the other end, to the beginning end, and make a slip stitch. So here I'm trying to make sure that everything is facing the same direction. I'm going to grab my hook and go through the very first stitch we made, the first chain stitch, and go through it with a slip stitch. So I'm going to pull like that. So we'll have some sort of like a circle. So after that you're going to chain 3, go into the same stitch where we attached the chain and go into it with a double crochet, and you'll continue with the same double crochet, which is basically yarn over, go through the stitch, pull through 2, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2, and you're going to do the double crochet all the way around, and I'll meet you at the very end of this second row. So far this is how our second row is looking. So I'll continue doing the double crochets in every stitch of the chain, and I'll meet you at the very end. I realized in my previous tutorials I was a little bit messing around with the stitches and how they are called, like instead of saying double crochet and I'm saying half double crochet, the slip single crochet and all that. So I'll try as much as I can to fix that. So basically this is how our second row is looking, and I'm going to continue with the double crochets. So where we made our chain 3, you're going to go on top of the third chain, on the third stitch of the chain 3, pull through, and we'll close the second row. Pull through. So for our third row, you're going to chain 4, then turn your work around, and this is our chain 4 is going to act as a double crochet, chain 1. So you're going to skip one stitch, one double crochet, go into the next double crochet with a double crochet, chain 1, skip one double crochet, go into the next with a double crochet, chain 1, and that is basically how our third row is going to work out, how our third row is going to look like. So chain 1, double, skip one double crochet into the next, put a double crochet, chain 1. So you will repeat that up to the end of the row, and I'll meet you at the very end. So basically I try as much as possible not to have a seam line in my work, especially with this particular pattern. I'm not going to have a seam line, and how I do that is after my last double crochet, chain 1, I'm going to go into that space with a double crochet. And I know it looks a bit funny or weird, but so once you're done with putting that double crochet there, you're going to chain 1, go into the next chain 1 space with a double crochet, then chain 1. I know it looks a bit should I say rough, or it just doesn't make sense, but once you continue with this pattern it's going to disappear and it's going to just follow shape. So you're going to chain 1, go into the next space with a double crochet, chain 1, go into the space with a double crochet, chain 1, and you're going to do this all through around. And once you're done with this row, we'll keep circling back to that space. That's going to be like our guidance, like to when we are increasing around the hip area, so that the pattern has some shape to it, so that it's just not a plain straight kind of piece. So we will have to keep increase to make a few rows of increases around the hip area to give our skirt some sort of shape. And I'll meet you when we start our increase and explain how we will do it. So when we get here, you're just going to continue with your chain 1 double crochet in every space, chain 1 double crochet. So I'm going to explain how we will do an increase for this particular pattern. basically explain how we'll make an increase on the hip area. So depending on your body type, there are people who have like small waists and big hips. So before you start making an increase, because for me basically my waist is a bit smaller and my hips are a bit slightly larger, so I made a total of 4 rows before I started making my increase at the hip area to just balance it out. So you can either make 2 rows of this mesh pattern, or you could either make more rows. This basically depends on your shape or the measurements that you have. So this is how mine is looking. Remember, our stitch stretches a lot, our pattern, it stretches a lot, and we'll be using our remember where we tried to avoid the seam line, so that is going to be like our reference point. That's where we'll be stopping and do whatever things, okay, and like make an increase. So for me, what I do is I fold the piece into half, and you can either grab stitch marker and attach your stitch markers in those 2 corners, or you can count the stitches and divide them by 4, and you'll start counting from where we made the seam line. Let's say if they're about let me say around 32 rows of this pattern, you're going to divide the 32 by 4, and you'll start counting from the very stitch from where we had our seam line, and where you get like if let's say you divided 32 by 4 and you get 8, you're going to start counting from where we had the seam line. You count 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 spaces, and that's where we're going to make an increase. Or is where you're going to like attach your stitch markers, and it will make work easier for you. So I'm almost to where I'm supposed to make my increase, and basically what I'm going to do and how I'm going to make an increase, on that space I'm going to put a double crochet, chain 1 and another double crochet in the same space, chain 1, and then continue with the same pattern, chain 1 in every space until I get to the next corner where I'm going to make an increase, and it's the same thing. I'm going to just put a double crochet, chain 1 and add another double crochet and continue. So if you have like a stitch marker, it's actually easier, but since I don't have a stitch marker, this is just basically how I just eyeball it or something like that and make sure that it makes sense to me. So always remember that when we get to where we're supposed to have a seam line, that is almost like our beginning point and our end point. So I did about 5 rows of increase, and it's the same thing where we did our double crochet, chain 1 double crochet on that same stitch is where we're going to do the next row of increase, until it gets to, probably when you put it on the measure it on the measuring tape, if you align the pattern with the measuring tape and it's probably almost the same, or the number of inches you think will work for you, then you can stop the increase and just continue with that pattern. So you can see the reason why we use this, but it's just the reason why we're making the increases, it's just to give the piece a form. So when someone puts it on, it's not too tight, it will just bring out like the hips and all that, compared to if they're not making these increases, sorry. So it's important. As you can see, our pattern is still taking shape and it's actually making sense. And once you're done with your increases, you're just going to continue with the same chain 1 double crochet in the space, chain 1 double crochet in the space, and I'll show you once you get to like the length that you want the skirt to be. If you want a mini skirt, make sure you have the measurements so that you keep checking and following. This is how far I've gone actually with my pattern as of now, and I want to show you how I ended it. So remember how I said our seam line is always going to be our beginning point and our end point. So you're going to grab your skirt and just follow that line through. And this is how we end the row. So if you've reached to the point where you feel like this is the length I want my skirt to, how long or how short I want my skirt to be, you follow that line, and then you will end with our slip stitch. So that's how we're going to end our row. We end like this is because our next pattern is a ruffle stitch. So you start by making a chain 3 and then put 12 double crochet in the chain 1 space. And once you're done with the 12 double crochet, you're going to skip the next chain 1 space, then go into the next one with 12 double crochets. So this is going to give it sort of like a ruffle stitch. So basically that's how our row is going to be. You're going to make 12 double crochets in one chain 1 space, skip the next, put 12 more in the next, skip 1, just like that, up to when you get to the very end of our row. So I'll meet you at the very end, and that is how we'll end the remember the ruffle stitch is both at the very end of the skirt and the beginning part of the skirt. So once you finish this part, I'm going to show you how to end the row, and then we will start on the top part of the skirt, and I'll meet you there. So when you're done with this, I'll show you how to end this row, then we start on the next part of our skirt. So basically that is it for this part. If you want, you can actually stop there and then just attach a string on the waist, and that's it. But because I wanted to have some sort of like a unique design, that's why I chose this. And I saw an inspiration on Pinterest, and I thought maybe I could try and recreate almost the same thing. And it also helps, like, in case you want the ruffles to be 2 different colors. I think I'm going to attach a picture of the inspiration I got from Pinterest, so that in case you have, like, you want to make a different pattern, sorry, you want to make the same skirt maybe in 2 different colors, this is how maybe it will look like. So here we are at the very end of our row, and on the very last chain 1 space I've put 12 double crochets. And remember, we started our row with a chain 3, so on top of that stitch, the chain 3 stitch, you're going to go into it with our slip stitch, and that is how we'll end our row. So you go into that chain 3 with a slip stitch, chain 1, and then you're going to cut off your yarn. So this is how the ruffle stitch looks like. Actually, basically how our skirt looks like so far. And next we are going to work on the waist. So you're going to grab your yarn, make a slip knot, grab our skirt and attach it. So we'll be working in every double crochet space, so you're going to grab it in that. I'll make a chain 3, And after chaining 3, you're going to place between 8 to 10 double crochet in that space. So it depends on how large or small you want your ruffles to be. So basically, if you want small ruffles, you're going to grab a smaller hook, attach, and then make 8 double crochets in every 8 double crochets in the middle of the double crochets that we made at the very beginning. So for me, I used the same hook because I wanted it to be a bit bigger, so I placed 8 double crochet in that double crochet space. Then you skip 1 double crochet space, you go into the next one. So that's what we'll be doing up to the very end. So you place 8 double crochet, you skip 1 double crochet space, go into the next double crochet space. So just because our double crochets are packed, we're going to make sure that we go into or through the middle of the 2 double crochets. So that's where we'll be working our rows. That's how we'll be putting the ruffle stitches. So you're going to do this up to the very end. As I was explaining, if you want short or smaller ruffles, you use a smaller hook and less stitches. So at least make sure it starts from 6. So you can place 6 stitches in every double crochet space. So basically you'll do this up to the very end and then basically join the pieces together, making a slip knot, and then chain 1, then you cut off your yarn. So once we are done with all that, you're going to grab your yarn and make a chain of about 150 stitches, and this chain is basically going to go around our waist. You're going to attach it to the skirt, and then it will just make it tighter. In case the waist is a bit loose, this will adjust it and make it more fitting. So you're going to make that chain and attach it to the skirt, and I'll show you how to attach it. And basically this will probably be the end of our pattern. So this is our chain. You're going to cut the yarn off, and you're going to estimate where your front is going to be. Remember, we don't have a seam line really, so you can probably attach it anywhere you want. And you're going to skip the ruffle stitch. You're going to go into where we had our double crochet. So you're going to grab your hook and your chain, and where we had the double crochets, just go into the double crochet space, my focus was a bit off on this part, but you're going to just count where we had the double crochets at the very beginning. So you're going to count 4 double crochet spaces, and then you're going to just attach our hook into the space, and then you pull through just like this. And so you'll count again another 4 like that until you get to the very end. So we can just attach some probably fringe sort of design at the very end, so that our chain doesn't look like plain. So I got some yarn, rolled it around my hand, cut it, and then I attached it. So the next part of the video is just going to show you how I did that. So you'll divide it by 2 and then just So basically this is how I styled it, and for my next tutorial is going to be how I made the top, and it's probably the easiest top I've ever made. It took me around, I think, 1.5 hours to actually finish. And 3 different ways you can style it. So that's going to be our next tutorial. It's a simple top to make and it's quick, so it's something you can do maybe in case you're like resting, you're working on a project and you want something else to be working on. This can be